In times of plentiful amounts of data, marketers might be looking around the room quietly asking themselves, what should I be focusing on? Well, when it comes to your leads, there's much more to the story. We're here to tell you all about it. We're also here to delight and entertain. Today, we come to you with a splashy album by one of hip-hop's greatest MCs. So turn up the volume wherever you're listening or watching. We're about to have some fun. Welcome back, guys. Season 3 of On the Record. Hard to believe it's already this far along, but we've made it this far, right? Something to be proud of.
Absolutely.
For our listeners and watchers, the support has been immense. I think we've racked up over 500,000 listens, views, downloads. So it's going well. We've captivated some interest. We hope to be back this season with some more entertainment and some delightful moments. Michael, how's it been?
I mean, it has been a whirlwind of change as well. A lot of what we talked about in the last season, we've actually now started to execute, and we're coming to fruition. We're going to talk about a lot of the new product initiatives that have come out of some of these conversations in this season, which I'm really excited to introduce.
I love the momentum there, right? The continuation, the maturation of the conversation.
Yeah.
Stace, it's good to see you as always. How you been feeling since the last season?
Peachy. I'm here. I couldn't be happier.
All right, that smile means that we're on to something that's well. That in itself is exciting. Season 3 is going to look, like you said, Michael, like a continuation of what we've done in the past. We're going to talk about some bigger topics too, right? The idea of democratizing data, right? Big businesses tend to win on these large data sets. What can the smaller business do? We're going to look at personalization, how campaigns are being won today by segmentation, and some of the great things you guys are doing with lead advancement, lead enrichment, and so on and so forth. And we're going to cover some pretty interesting music along the way as well, right? We're going to go deep underground again, but we're also going to get up here in the popular realm as well. We're going to see things like Radiohead, MF Doom is back for another appearance, Little Sims, Frank Ocean, my man, makes an appearance as well. We're going to have a lot of fun. And the guests we have for this season as well are pretty eclectic as well, so we look forward to all that.
Absolutely.
But we're going to get into today's topic right now and kick this thing off a little bit. So this is all about more data, more revenue, and perhaps a smarter way to go about lead generation. And it's all gonna focus around your favorite, Michael. MF Doom, he's back. Season 3.
Surprise.
A record. Yeah, right, the boss gets his way every once in a while. This record is exciting for a variety of reasons. We'll talk about the parallels, but for me, we're recording in Minneapolis, Minnesota. This record was distributed out of a Minnesota record label known as Rhymesayers. So, Michael, Doom, more data, more revenue, and leads. Tie it together, please.
Yeah, so I actually think this record is an example of what happens when you don't have enough data. And I mean, look, as much as I love Doom, we can still be critical, right, in how we approach it. So Doom was, his inputs, I felt like, on this record, it was produced almost all by him. So there was no, no outside producers except for one.
Yep.
And he kind of did it at this time where he was frantically working on multiple projects at once. It was released within a year of Madvillain, right?
Yes.
Which is probably his most popular kind of flagship album. And that had Madlib as the producer. So it had a wider set of input and influence on it, where Food, it really is just Doom. And Doom is, you know, he's a strange cat, right?
He wears a mask, so I mean, let's start there.
Get up and get tested. Pop through your bubble vest or double-breasted. He keep a lab down south in the Little Beast. So much heat, you would have thought it was the Middle East. A little grease always keeps the wheels a spinning, like sitting on 23s to get the squealers grinning.
And so this was really all him. A lot of samples, that kind of like 80s vibe of the music that he chose to pull from. It was very deep catalog.
Yes.
And it's not the most accessible record. You kind of have to be a Doom fan. I think the other interesting thing is a lot of the beats come from his mixtapes that he was putting.
There's only one beer left. Rappers screaming all in our ears like we're deaf. Tempt me, do a number on the label. Beat up all the MCs and drink them under the table like it's on me.
he was distributing those to a very small, I mean, they were selling out, but it was a small audience of folks that really didn't like where the mainstream hip hop was going. And so that was his input for this, was he was getting like positive feedback, but it was from this niche cohort.
Yeah.
And it feels like this record came out of that influence where he was getting like the feedback, these vinyls were selling out. But when we look at like the Madvillain record, it has such a wider appeal. And I think that's because of Madlib's influence, the kind of collaboration between the two. That tape also leaked early, and they were able to get feedback on the album, and they actually refined it after that leak. Whereas as Food, I think it's brilliant, but I understand at first listen, it might feel a bit odd.
Absolutely.
Is that, Stace?
I will definitely attest to that. When you said it's not as accessible,
Yeah.
I will also second that. I got through halfway. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, I am not into underground. Like, obviously, I think we all know that from a few seasons.
Talked about.
Yeah, so I was just kind of like, you're saying you are the niche, like you loved it, but
Yeah.
like, and so that's like, you were the minority though, and in terms
Yeah.
of like, yeah, I can see that now, because I have no idea, like I didn't know any of that, and so I just assumed that it was everyone loved it, and I'm just not in it.
Yeah, there was a crowd. I mean, that if you like Doom, most people are a bit more fanatical about it, right? But it was a response to what was happening out in the mainstream, right? Where you had very polished, very poppy artists coming out, and this was kind of the response to that world, where if you weren't into that, you wanted to see hip hop stay where it was, right? He was your answer.
A show of hands is a term some people use loosely. I'm real choosy on what I choose to let crew see. You telling me I try to act broke? Jealousy the #1 killer among black folk. Fellas be honest.
And that was really the space that he was filling. But not that he wanted to, but if he was a marketer and he was looking for broad appeal, he probably didn't have the inputs for this record in order to achieve it.
Yeah, no question. I want to ask you a little bit about the conceptuality of it. Like, it's this really random record where it has a lot of food-based themes, but two things can be true at once, right? Like, it had to have a correlation to something else in life, or maybe from the street vernacular that paired with food as well. And often smarter lead generation looks like advanced segmentation, more personalization. This record's hyper-focused on its concept. How do you think its conceptuality, again, aligns with maybe our thoughts around more data, more revenue, and smarter lead generation as a whole?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, but also limited, right? You kind of have to be in on the joke. You have
Very
to
much
be
so.
in on like
Hyper-personalized.
the practice, right? So again, I think it kind of boxes him into this world that played well, at the time, but it also is a bit limiting in the sense that every single song had to have these food references. I think it was a challenge for himself. Like, can I pull this off more than anything? Than him taking a concept and trying to, okay, what is mass appeal? This probably, this was more of an exercise and a challenge. Can I pull off a record that's all about food? I mean, this is a guy, he took, when he did 2 albums later, he did The Mouse and the Mask. The only reason he signed it was because they promised him that he could do Yogi Bear samples, and he was gonna get access to the Hanna-Barbera catalog. So that was kind of like his driving force wasn't, how do I get to the Billboard Top 10? No. It was simply, how do I continue to challenge myself to be better? Which is different than what we're trying to do often in marketing.
Yeah, and little known fact, he licensed a Sesame Street
Yes,
sample
that's
on
right.
cookies. Yes, there was a Sesame Street sample of which
he didn't license.
Well, he didn't. That was the problem. The first pressing goes out with a sample on it. All additional pressings remove the sample, but he sampled Sesame Street. So Yogi Bear, Not surprising that that was his continuation of this work as well, which is fascinating.
Yep.
We talked about staying power last season, the way of branding, and you have an audience, you stay hyper connected to them. This spawns a recipe book, his first national tour, his biggest commercial success in the way of a platinum single as well. A lot of these things took place over time or well after the release, which I was incredibly, I admire that because it was the stick-to-itiveness from this incredibly well-branded packaged album and what it gave him a year or two down the road. I mean, a lot of people look at this as a preeminent record, like you've suggested, but for reasons maybe he didn't anticipate or he had the forethought to see ahead.
Maybe. Or he did seem to just kind of take the opportunities in front of him. So he seems to run with some of these ideas because someone comes up and says, hey, I'll make your recipe. All right, go. You know?
Yeah.
And like he often didn't license his samples, but he also didn't go after anyone that was making mixtapes of, you know, of their own inspired by him or using his beats. So he very much was a collaborative fellow. But yeah, no, I think it's interesting. And why I liked it, because I think it's an example of what can happen if we niche down too far. And then while we're resonating with a certain audience that's giving us really great feedback, and I think that happens a lot, we're missing maybe the bigger opportunity because we're so hyper-focused on the positive feedback that's coming in, and then we're dialing into that loop.
You get caught in your own vacuum in essence, yeah. Lovely. No, we'll weave in some more thoughts about Doom. There's a lot of intricacies to this record, and I think more parallels as we kind of go on through the conversation. But let's start to turn the page in favor of about lead generation through advanced data. So our top question, I'm just going to read it verbatim because I think it gets us going. So the simplest way for marketers to start leveraging more data, what does it look like without getting overwhelmed? And maybe Stacy, I'd start with you on this.
Yeah, I think the overwhelming feeling has been hitting all marketing teams in the last few years. Is so much data is pouring in, and unless you have a data team or data dudes, as some might say, you're just stuck there. You're just always looking at like what's there to do, and you have an analysis paralysis, right? And so I think though there's value in that, in understanding and just sitting in the data for a while. Like it might seem really overwhelming, and it might seem like, what the heck, like, I have no idea what to do. But after you get used to seeing the same numbers, the same trends, the same, that sort of thing, you can then start to like understand, get over that paralysis and be like, oh, well, that's a constant. Oh, that's super fun. Now what can I start doing? So you can start to action off of it. And I think until you sit in the data and get really overwhelmed for a while, I don't think that there's action that you can take. So I think there's like always this like, oh, as soon as I get data, I should be able to do something with it. I think that's just like our hustle culture, and like people get caught up in it. It's like, no, it's actually okay to just sit in it for a while and be really uncomfortable. It will get better as long as you keep trying to. You're not just like, oh great, now what? Like you're kind of going. And so that's kind of what I would say it starts for everyone. And then I think it gets really fun once you can start to take that action. But the action's only as good as your analysis and allowing yourself to kind of sit in that for a bit.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the specificity around these data points that we think truly move the needle. What if your next campaign didn't just get more leads, it got better leads? With lead enrichment from Leadpages, you don't just collect contacts, you unlock over 40 powerful data insights, like job titles, company size, and industry, automatically. So you can personalize your marketing, qualify faster, and close more deals. Start marketing smarter and converting more with Leadpages. Michael, from marketing teams, data can be a bit of an encumbrance. How do you see them better leveraging this into the future? Is there a key focus areas? Is it just how we process or analyze data?
I think we often get caught up in some of the top level metrics, right? We're trying to get MRR to increase, or we're trying to get traffic to increase. But what matters is a couple levels deeper, and that's actually what we found, where we were exclusively marketing to solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and we had this cohort of companies that was underneath the surface, but you couldn't see it in the immediate data. And so we started to enrich our customers' data. We started to enrich our lead data. And we could see that there was actually 5 or 6 different customer types underneath the surface, and each had very different performance. So when we were looking at the aggregate, it was one story. But when we started to break it down based on the segmentation, it highlighted that we were solving different problems for different people and different cohorts of people. And we either needed to do a better job of solving the problem for one or two of them, or we needed to find what problems they collectively had and do a better job at solving them. And that's really where, once we could see the different segments that were underneath the surface, we can make better product decisions because of it.
But let's be clear, we enriched for a while and we're just
Yeah.
enriching. Like
True.
we were
Yeah.
just, and we were like, oh, look at this, another solopreneur. Oh, look at that. Like we weren't necessarily doing anything right away, but then over time, then we could start to see, oh, we've enriched enough. Now we do see these different segmentations, these different groups. And
Yep.
that got us thinking, but we didn't do anything with it for
is,
a little while.
It's overwhelming. You need
Yeah.
a good data set as well. There's a lot of work that goes into cleaning the data, organizing the data,
course.
making it accessible to even ask questions of it.
Yeah.
And you're right, we often just say, oh, data, I make data-driven decisions. But there is a lot more to it than just that. But the first step is getting started, right?
And this led to a pretty large inflection point for the business. You've shifted it to go towards a different customer profile, a different lead profile based upon the analysis of customer data and lead data as well. So this analysis, if done well and given enough time, can really change the course of a business. And that's what's been exciting about Leadpages, is a shift. And I think we'll talk about the product experience and what allows people to advance their lead generation as a whole. So there's some pretty exciting things based upon this.
Yeah, so much so that we've incorporated now going after those certain segments into our lead generation. And so now we do want to go after these other little smaller cohorts that we saw. So how can we do that? And now bringing it into lead generation. So now when leads are coming in, we're evaluating and we're putting them into buckets right away and trying to understand which tactics align with this group,
Yep.
which texts align with this group, which content with this group. And so now all of the segmentation is really hinged on this enrichment data. And we didn't have this at all before. It's changed literally everything that we do at that top of the funnel. And just from there, it's just downstream, right? There's gonna be so many other consequences from that, but it all starts at that top.
Yep.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And now we're able to quickly evaluate campaigns, where before we had to wait 2 weeks. We had a trial period, how many people are going to convert, what plan are they going to convert into, and then how long are they going to stick around. We've been able to basically take a regression analysis of who the customer is when they're coming in, build a customer profile and a scoring grade, and now we can see it at the lead level. What is the predicted quality of each lead that's coming in, and are we improving it over time? So are we reaching more of the right people that we're trying to reach, that we know are high value customers for us, and we're able to do that from our first touch point with them, which I think is incredibly impactful.
It's the future of marketing. If those are not doing it right now, they're listening and watching, it's time to start doing so.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so marketers for the longest of time have fought to just get an email address, right? We thought, hey, we got that, they've shown some intent, your lead scoring starts, that journey kicks off, really exciting. But there's a future of which we're talking about more data points that inform this segmentation, this personalization. Stace, talk to us a little bit about, we talk about enrichment. What is the enrichment? Is it psychographic? Is it demographic, firmographic? What is it?
Ideally everything, right?
Perfect
In a
world.
really creepy way. We want to know as much as possible about you. But we don't live in that perfect world, right?
quite,
And
yeah.
so can we just start at the basic level? Can we understand even your just location? Or can we understand even company, how large your company is? Or from a employee or revenue standpoint, can we just do some of the basics? Nothing like, oh, you really love MF Doom and all these other underground rap people. Like
That'd be awesome.
That would be cool, but
Imagine
like
that email campaign.
yeah. But we don't need to get quite that deep right away, because if you do, then what do you do with it, right? And so just starting at some of those basic key points, and then what do you do, right? It's like, okay, now I have it. Now we can start having content based off of maybe regional, right? And like drop local, whether it be news or anything like that, kind of really start to personalize towards the things that you know. And that already is gonna be better than what you had before, right? Like you're starting really down here, starting at nothing. So just a little bit is better.
It's crazy, just a little bit of personalization based on those data points, simply acknowledging industry, job title, maybe a first name, blows the consumers away traditionally. So people are probably overwhelmed by how much we're saying you have to install inside of your marketing, but actually just little tidbits of these demographic or firmographic things moves the needle inherently. So maybe a few of your thoughts as well, Michael.
Yeah, well, when we just look at industry, the use case for lead pages across industries is pretty wide, right? We've got real estate, we have healthcare, we've got SaaS, we've got tech. So what the customer's pain point is for each of those, just on that one data point, we know that they're most likely going to use it in a different way than the generic you need a landing page. So we're actually able to go 1 or 2 levels deeper in our pitch to tell them how you can be successful based on what we think they want to do with the product based on what industry they're working in. And that's just one of probably 50 data points that we're now able to collect and then help the customer through so that they can actually be more successful with the product. Because if we're just telling them the generic advice, that's great, right? But if we can tell them exactly how to solve the problem that they came to and they can do that faster, they're going to be way more successful with us.
Yeah, no question. And a lot of this is about data accessibility. We're talking about these massive amounts of data sets, and probably a lot of listeners and viewers right now are saying, well, I don't have access to that.
Yeah.
Well, Leadpages as a whole is invested on surfacing that information. And Michael, as a longstanding product leader, you kind of shifted the roadmap to say, hey, listen, we need to supply our customers with these things, and we can productize it. Take us a little bit through that thought process and then the execution that's close to customers.
Yeah, absolutely. So this data, sometimes it does feel out of reach for
absolutely.
A solopreneur, a small business, a medium business even. And they are complex systems that you have to set up, right? Unless you're using one of the really big CRMs. But right. And so we know how much those cost. So if you're putting together your marketing stack, sometimes these were elements that were missing because you couldn't fit it in, you couldn't afford it, or you just didn't have easy access to it, and didn't want to pay for something that if you didn't know what the value would be. So what we've done is we've started to build some of the things that we're using in our marketing team right into the product, lead enrichment being one of them. And so we're adding the ability to enrich leads at the point of collection so that when you have this lead now and you send it over to your CRM, you actually have a whole lot more data on that customer that you can then use to personalize sequences, do sales analysis, do a lead scoring. So you're focusing on the right leads, not just all of the leads. And because it's built right into Leadpages, we feel like it makes it so much easier for you to take it out to any CRM, not just one of the big CRMs, to be able to make these decisions.
Yeah, and let's even back up a little further. So we did start enriching, right? And we had to go to one of those big companies.
Yep.
And it was a bit of a pain to get them into our system. It wasn't cheap either.
No.
So we did feel a lot of those pain points, but we went after it because we're like, we really need to have this. We also had a rock star putting it together. So that helped, but we could feel the pain, right? Like we're like, oh, is it worth it? Is it worth it? So like there's got to be a million other people or other companies just like us.
Absolutely.
And for us, we're a smaller company. How many other people would love to have that too, but they don't have a rock star with the operations. They don't have the budget, or they don't have that knowledge of, oh, I should go to here and here and I shouldn't go there. Like just having that, when you kind of said earlier, democratizing data, like that's what this is about, is like you don't need to have 50,000 leads every month. No. You don't need to have 5,000, even if you just have 50 of them. Like this can work. It's just a really quick, simple, integrated with your landing page. It's not like, oh, all right, now I got to integrate it to here, and then I need to, like all these other things, that's where a lot of these other data enrichments come in. It's like really designed for that large company. And it's like, okay, can some of these smaller folks get a little piece of that? Like, can you help a sister out here? Like.
And we're on that doorstep, so it's an exciting time for Leadpages. And it sounds as if there's a dog-fooding case study here for Leadpages to probably pull together. The lift that's going to be seen and has been felt is noticeable, and I think other businesses might be inspired or motivated to invest the resources to put a person on the job for this to really advance kind of their marketing as a whole. So.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. We'd like to leave everybody with a bit of an actionable takeaway, and I'd like for each of you to just kind of give them one. Where could you start, right? We've talked about a lot of things here in the last 20, 25 minutes. Michael, where would you tell someone to start if they're looking to enrich their data and then employ that in the way of their campaigns?
Yeah, well, I would start with demographic or firmographic information, right? Demographic if you're B2C, firmographic if you're B2B.
Okay.
From there, you can through 5 or 6 data points, company size, annual revenue, employee count, the position that someone has within an organization, where that position sits. All of that can be easily used to then start to see, is there something I'm missing, right? So I know I have one demographic that likes, are there people that maybe don't look like the persona that I've been targeting or that I think is my customer that is getting value out of what I am selling? And if there is, you may have the opportunity to actually broaden your target market just on that insight alone. And you don't even need to personalize yet, but you know that, okay, I've been really trying to reach this person. These two people are also interested in me. Maybe there's more of them out there than I thought. And now I've 2 to 3x my target, my total addressable market. And I think that alone can be really valuable. And then from there, you can start to cater messaging and personalization. But there's probably a lot that we're missing when we decide who our persona is, rather than letting the market decide whose problem that we're solving.
It's very much a crawl, walk, run in many of these things. The crawl stage will be wildly advantageous. And we talk about leads, but this gets down to the bottom line. You're getting better qualified people. You're talking to them in the way that matters. Revenue follows. We all know that as marketers and business owners. So.
Yeah.
Stace, what can they take away?
I would say start. So even after Michael said, say you did identify 3 or 4 groups that you didn't know that you had before. This is going to sound weird, but don't go all in with them right away. Don't bake it into your lead generation until you test some things, till you start testing some messaging and that sort of thing, and then you start to see the numbers climb. Because maybe the data set was too small. Maybe it was just like a weird blip or whatnot. And so don't, oh, there's 3 or 4, I really got to go all in now and bake it into everything that we do and spend a lot of time baking it into your processes and things like that. Like test it out a little bit first, like see what's worth it. Because out of the 3 or 4, maybe one of them was just like a weird thing. Another one was like, oh, there's not much there, but it's there. Like test a little bit. But before you kind of really jump into the deep end, like just take a beat and make sure that what you're seeing is actually something that has staying power and is sustainable.
I couldn't agree more. So more data, more revenue, and the secret to smarter lead generation. It sounds like maybe not a secret, but maybe an unlock, perhaps, right?
Yeah, maybe an access issue.
Yeah, we're not, obviously, reinventing the wheel here, but it's these things that marketers talk about. It's the action that is sometimes missing, and I think that we've given them some tools, maybe a solution to point towards as well, as far as unlocking this, getting into action, start small, and let this kind of grow over time incrementally. So. Absolutely. Yeah, and we brought MF Doom along for the ride again.
Sure did.
It is recording at 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, people, and we were talking about underground rap records, smarter lead generation, and more data. How do we do it? I don't know, but we do it again. It's fantastic. This is one of many episodes that we're going to talk about data, obviously, and much more. Michael, thank you for your time, your thoughts, your considerations. Stace, I said it earlier, you look fantastic, by the way. Your hair looks great. The heck with that gal that said it didn't that one time. We're going to have a lot more fun, a lot more insights throughout season 3, and stay tuned.